So, uh, so hi guys. My name is Nir. I'm the CISO at Rapyd. So what that means is that I manage security, also IT. I've been in Rapyd for almost 4 years. So I started up when we were a very small fintech, and now we're less smaller fintech. And 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 I was along for the ride when we want to go fast. We still want to go fast, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my takeaways, and hopefully, as you're building your fintech or as you're talking to people who are building their fintech, you can take a tip or two. And again, I'm jumping to the third point. If you want to connect to me on LinkedIn, ask a question, argue about something, feel free to do that. You might be watching this video later on YouTube, so feel free to hit me up. And I love to engage with people and love to talk about security. And yeah, and a fun fact about me is that I've been doing martial arts for many years. So so yes, so I'm trying to protect actually not people, just myself, because it's self-defense, right? So if we're both attacked, either I'm running or protecting myself. But if you get attacked in a cyber sense, I'll try to protect you. And no promises, because Rapyd's first. But right now in this webinar, I will show you how to protect yourself and how to think of a few principles that will help you as you go through your fintech journey. So let's jump forward. So I'd like to think about anything in principles because it's easier to break it down. If you think about all the technical concepts, by the way, you don't even need me. You can just Google, some security standard and start reading it. The problem is it's sometimes it's overwhelming, just like anything you set up to do. But if you look at principles, it's much easier to break it down, to kind of focus on the main things you got to do and move from there. So the two kinds of principles we're going to talk about today are governance principles, which means how you want to build your company. There's a certain way of companies that if you build it that way, you can be fast, but still be compliant, be secure. And the second kind of principles I want to talk about are technical principles, which are principles that will that you can add. It's basically controls that you can add to make sure you guys are safe. And of course, you can ask me anything. And let me start though by asking you something. Do you think you understand security? So if the answer is yes, then you don't understand security, because security is an endless practice. So what I'm trying to say is I don't understand security, even though I'm doing it for many, many years, because it's changing, it's shifting. There's always new attacks. And that's the kind of mindset you got to be good at security. That I don't understand it yet. I got to learn more. I got to do more. And that's a mindset that you should have to kind of deal with the problems, because when you're in security, there's always something you don't know. There's always a new attack, and it's okay. It's okay. Before we jump into the principles, which is the next slide, I just want to tell you a story or a joke, okay, an anecdote. So two guys come crashing into a jungle, and they crash into the jungle, and a pack of wolves start attacking them, start running. Let's say there's wolves in this jungle. I'm a CISO. I'm not a biologist, so assuming wolves live in jungles. So they crash in the jungle. They're surrounded by a pack of wolves, and they start running. And then one of them stops and starts tying on. He has a backpack. He takes out his running shoes and starts tying them on. And the guy looks at him. He's like, "You're never going to outrun a wolf." He's like, "I don't have to outrun a wolf. I got to outrun you." And then he takes off. And that's it's kind of cruel, but that's true about security. Somebody's getting hacked. Somebody's getting hacked right now, and it's better if it's not your company. So that's why, even though security is endless and nobody knows anything about security, there's always more and all that stuff I said. If you do a few simple things, the attackers are going to focus on somebody else, and that principle is 100% true. It's true, and it's always true. So always remember, tie your sports shoes, your security sports shoes, your running shoes, and begin running, and just pass through another company who's not in this webinar, who's not going to do these things, and let them get hacked. I mean, obviously, I don't want anybody to be hacked, and I wish they weren't criminal, and we'd all, peace and love and whatever. But in reality, people are getting hacked, and it's better not to be you. So let's jump. So how do you not get hacked? Okay. So first thing is, you don't have to invent the wheel. That's a first principle that's very important. You don't have to invent the wheel. You don't have to. Again, security is endless. There's so many principles. And there's really smart people whose job is to kind of break it down for you. The two leading principles that, and this is again governance, when you start a company, the earlier the better is. You just got to, and these are free to download. You can just Google it right now, PCI DSS. I'm sure anybody in payments has kind of heard of it, and CAS Top 20. Now, a lot of times we see it as an obstacle. Oh no, I got this new customer. He's asking if I'm PCI compliant. He's asking what I do, and it's true because a lot of times when we're engaged with these methodologies, we see them as a requirement that's stopping us from getting the sale. And that's a lot of times it's 100% true, but it's also a guide. And if we start implementing the guide, not trying just to pass, just to like check the box to make sure we do it, but think, what are they trying to achieve? What does this mean? What's tokenization? What's the kind of spirit of this methodology? If we start mapping the way we work towards this methodology as early as possible, then it gets so easy because you end up building a company that's moving fast, but people are used to moving fast and being compliant. So PCI DSS is obviously a very long and complex methodology. Again, it's a leading methodology for payments, but CS Top 20, it's actually only 18 controls, and it's 18 basic controls you got to do. So anybody can just pick that up right now, start reading it, and try implementing these controls to the best of their ability. It could be with spreadsheets, it could be with just emailing somebody in your company, it could be any way you want to do it. But as long as you start thinking about it, it's only 18 controls. Anybody can do 18 controls. Anybody. My mother is not technical. If I told her, hey mom, try implementing these 18 controls, she probably couldn't do it, but she'd probably get 4. And that's 4 more than again. And the point is to outrun the next guy. If you implement 4 out of these 18, you're already better than a lot of other companies. So one of the ways to just start as early as possible, pick up CAS, read, and the controls are based by criticality. So you start with the number one control, you implement that to the best of your ability, and your security is already improving. You don't need a CISO, you need a vCISO, you need anything. You just need to read, you know your company, and you start working. Then once you're in there, start reading PCI. There you might want to consult, and you might not understand. But again, today, thanks to LinkedIn, thanks to Twitter, thanks to Reddit, you can just ask a question. You don't need a full-time consultant. You can run fast or something not clear, and you can start implementing. Again, you might not want to be PCI compliant right now. Maybe it's too much for you to start separating your data because maybe you don't even have a database. Maybe you built fintech solution off Rapyd and Google Sheets. So you can't start encrypting Google Sheets, even though you can, by the way, today. But it's more complex. So maybe you don't do that control, and maybe you're not PCI compliant, but you're starting to walk towards PCI. The sooner you do it, the sooner you take some basic steps towards PCI compliance, the faster you'll get it when you're ready for it, and you already got all the pieces in place. So just using leading methodologies is such a huge tip, and it's scary, right? Oh no, these are the requirements the big banks want. No, it's not. It shouldn't be that scary. It's something that's totally doable, and again, take the 18 controls and see what you can implement from there. So that's the second principle. That's the first principle. Sorry, the second principle is, and I'm talked about it, is implement them as fast as possible. And again, I alluded to it. Anybody can read 18 controls. Read the 18 controls, understand them, and implement them. And again, if you have a question about it, hit me up on LinkedIn or put a question on Reddit or start a Twitter thread. Or ask ChatGPT. If you've seen this thing, that's crazy. You could just ask this new ChatGPT anything you want, probably give you a good answer. So it's not that difficult or scary to get on your way. And once you're there, you're going to be so much more advanced than anybody else at your place that later, as you hopefully succeed in your fintech journey, you got everything in place and you're already moving forward. And you have the pieces in place when you need them. Because ultimately, when you're in fintech, you'll want to engage the big bank, you'll want to engage the big fintech, you'll want to engage the regulator. And the sooner you have these pieces in place, the faster you can move later on. And the last thing is that will basically enable you to succeed with these methodologies is keep it simple, right? KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So this was something Rapyd believed in even before I joined, just from the very beginning. They're like, we're simple. Let's do it simple. Let's do the best we can in a simple way. And that will enable you to move fast, but you're still doing stuff. So if it's overcomplicated, move to the next thing. You don't have the time right now because you're probably not, a 30 people company, 100 people company to be complex. By the way, I would argue that even when you're 1,000 people, you might not be ready to be complex, but definitely when you're smaller, when you're just starting off your fintech journey, It might just be you and your co-founder, just you alone, or just you and 3 customers. Keep it simple. Do the best you can. And I gave you the example of CAS. The first control is manage your hardware and software assets. Those are the first control. Know what you have. If you know what you have, you can secure it. If you don't know what you have, it's harder to secure it. So one big advice here is just know what you have simply, right? Just take a spreadsheet, write your laptops, write all the software you use. Start seeing if how you protect each one. Think, okay, which of these software is more? Okay, I got my stuff on Google Drive. That's my crown jewels. Let's say I'm just assuming a very simple deployment, right? I got my stuff on S3 bucket. Where do I have my stuff? The most critical stuff for my business, the crown jewels, so to speak. And there you start. And it's very, very simple. You don't have to start, paying a lot of money for security tools. You don't have to. It's more of a thought exercise. It's half an hour to sit by yourself and simply think of what's the big risk is. So, and again, based on these methodologies, they really walk you through the way. So those are the governance principles as you build your company that will allow you to, on one hand, keep moving fast. On the other hand, know what's expected, know what good looks like. You got to know what good looks like, right? If you don't know what a wolf looks like and you're in the forest, you don't even know you need to run, right? So, or a tiger, whatever animal scares you, right? But the point is, know what good looks like and know what bad looks like, right? So it's very important, and these methodologies will point you in the right direction. So again, even if you implement one control, you're one control ahead of another company. You have a little edge over your competition, and you're on your way. Okay. No backup, no pity. Yeah. So this is just with a bold, rapid style is backups, right? It's never uh it's never too early to back up your to back up your data. So again, most companies are in the cloud, and as you get to the cloud, uh, it becomes easier to back up. But even if your whole company is your laptop, buy a USB, a thumb drive, and back it up. Back it up, back it up again, keep one in the closet, and you'll never regret it. It's never wrong to back up. And most of the attacks we read about today, like ransomware, they based on the fact that companies don't back up enough, and we're all aware of this. So back it up. You got on Google, save it somewhere else. There's never too many backups. Again, I'm not saying go crazy with this, but again, you gotta back up. That's a basic thing of IT really. It's not it even existed before CISOs existed. Just back up your stuff. The next, so now that will jump us to the technical principles. Uh, so I want to talk about a few principles. The first principle is called zero trust. So zero trust is a kind of buzzword today, right? By the way, it doesn't exist. You can't not trust anybody. Even zero trust is based on trust. But zero trust basically means don't trust until the thing you're accepting giving access to or whatever you're doing verified it's them. Don't, because if you think about the old days, we all remember this, like if somebody had your password, you believed it was them. That's how it worked. But then it can't work like that. You can't just have a password. You can't just have an SSH with a password and assume it's your developer, it's your contractor, it's your partner. You got to add more layers to make sure you trust them, because it's getting easier and easier to fake some of these controls. It's getting easier to steal a password, to steal an MFA token. So zero trust is a kind of technical principle that says I got to do as many tests as possible. Because again, if you think about it academically, if I would do 1,000 tests on everybody, like think every user who wants to check his email, he has to do 1,000 things to check his email. First off, nobody would check their email. Is that good? Is that bad? Probably that's bad, right? For me as a CISO, that's great, right? Nobody's working. Nobody can click phishing links. What could be better? No, but seriously, it's obviously it's horrible. But from a pure academic standpoint, if I had to do 1,000 check, scan my retina, check my ears, I don't know, check my teeth, my thumbprint, put a password, do a hard token, and more and more and more and more, it would be almost impossible to kind of trick a system that it's me. Obviously, we can't do that, but we can do more than a password, right? So zero trust is that kind. It's a never-ending kind of aspiration to add more and more and more tests on the way to make sure that the person who's accessing is, and usually this person is an administrator, is a person who has the keys to the kingdom, the keys to the room where the crown jewels are kept. So it's the kind of striving to make sure you test that as much as possible. Now, the easiest no-brainer thing is MFA, right? So when you build your solution, understand that customers expect that. And the security of your product, you don't want somebody to hack your product. You don't want fraudsters to come hack your product, start posing as your customers. So bake MFA as soon as possible. Bake SSO as soon as possible. SSO is single sign-on, log in with Google. Then you add SAML or SSO or all these or all these things, then you're kind of connecting to all the great security controls of the big cloud providers. That's the next point we'll talk about in a second. But I really want to drive this point home. Also in your personal life, also for your loved ones. You know, it's Christmas. The best presents you can get anybody in your family is a password manager. Get them a password manager. You go home to your parents' house, go to your mom and dad. Hey, mom, dad, can I turn on, multi-factor authentication on your Google, or on your Facebook, on your Instagram? That's a present that will actually help them. Make sure fraudsters don't steal anything they have. Let's make sure your iCloud account has MFA. Let's make sure all the stuff where you keep your personal belongings, your personal data has MFA, has the controls needed. And we all know it. We all use it. You know, today every iPhone is biometric. You know, almost every Android has the ability as well. So it's just something so embedded today in the way we use computers that it's almost a no-brainer. But yeah, you see more companies that charge extra for it, or just don't do it, just because they're not aware. But again, this goes back to the running in the jungle. This is what's going to give you the edge. This is going to make sure your administrators don't get hacked, you don't get hacked, your loved ones don't get hacked, and your company product don't get hacked. So again, right now, if you're a developer and you're using SSH open to the internet with just your passwords is admin. And by the way, there's tons of companies like that. You might be like that. Again, like that's why I started with nobody knows enough security. You might like, oh my God, I can't believe I do that. That's fine. Now you know about it, so fix it. That's what security is all about. So this is new to you. Once upon a time, it was new to me, and that's okay. It's okay to learn about security. That's why you're in this webinar. So SSH, that's classic. That's so classic. Just, new company has SSH just open because they don't want to set up a VPN, or they don't understand how AWS works, or they don't have time. Nobody ever has time. Just leave it open. You're like, what's going to happen? And then you get hacked, and your database is gone, or everything's encrypted, and you have like a little note, send me 3 Bitcoins, you're not getting it back. That happened to like 4 or 5 companies that I personally know about. It's not always in the news because usually they're very small companies. So they're pre-revenue, nobody knows about them. But I've had like founders reach out to me like in hysteria, like, what do I do? What do I do? And they said, oh my God, I wish I knew not to do that. I just want to move fast. I want my developers to access our servers. I just didn't think about that. So that's a very simple thing you can do right away. It won't slow you down at all, because it's just about, it's like half an hour of getting used to accessing in a new way, right? It's like getting a new phone. It's like you have a day like, oh man, right. And then that's it. It's part of you. So it's not really something that slows you down, but it has a lot of value because people can directly access your servers. The SSH is not open. And again, and put MFA as much as you can. There's a lot of things you can do, like, fingerprint device. It's called device trust, that, only certain devices can access by certain users. But the very least you can do right now, it doesn't matter if you're a Microsoft, Google, Okta, it doesn't matter what you use. Just make sure MFA is enforced. That means all users need accept a password. They need also to put in a code, or to press something on their phone, or to use a FIDO2 hard token, or anything like that. So access control are super key, because again, this is the age of the internet. We're all connected to the internet, and the difference between me and a host and you as a member is just access control. That's it. That's the whole difference as far as Zoom is concerned, right? They start the session, they see the user, and that's it. It's just access control. The next thing we're moving on, and again, that's the bad side of the internet. That's not bad, but the more difficult side. The plus side of the age of the internet is the cloud. So, I know I look very young, and you're like, how is this? Is this Doogie Howser? How is he even like so young and so knowledgeable? But I'm not that young. I know you're all thinking that, but I'm not that young. And I remember before there was cloud. I don't know if you guys, once upon a time, I know it's shocking, but once ages ago. I'm talking like maybe 6 years ago, but a long time ago, there wasn't cloud. Everything was on premises, and you had probably a mainframe, and you had to come to the office to check stuff, or you had some clunky VPN, and it sucked. It sucked. You had 30 IT guys, and you still sucked. And you'd have all kinds of issues you had to worry about. And today that's all gone. It's a thing of the past. It's amazing. It's amazing. You can build a crazy company with WhatsApp and maybe a free AWS membership, or maybe just Google Sheets. I've seen companies like that. That's what they have. Google Sheets, a bit of code, and they're selling. Because and you can have servers also for cheap or almost free, just using the cloud. So use the cloud. If you have a server, I know there's an illusion of safety, but the amount of maintenance over time for that is just not worth it. So use cloud services, and then you harness all the engineers that work in Google and AWS and Microsoft. You get to use all those, and you can't compete with that. Maybe in the beginning, when it's just you could still feel competitive, but then you start hiring and growing, you cannot compete with what they're doing in the cloud. You'll never, I won't say never, but it's very, very hard and very expensive to be as secure as a company that's using AWS. So you can be with no IT engineers using AWS and just reading CIS and doing a few simple things and being super secure, and then have an on-prem deployment with 15 IT engineers and be less secure. That can happen today. So if you're not in the cloud, so be in the cloud. By the way, you don't, if you have some inherent disbelief of the cloud, somebody else's computer, all that stuff they used to say, and they still say it, and it's true, right? It's not your computer, AWS computer, you're renting some space. So, and you want to use on-prem backups, that could be fine, but you should have your core business in the cloud that will just let you be a lot more secure and a lot faster. And again, I'm not going to focus anymore on this point, because I think anybody in this call, anybody who knows Rapyd, and I got a question. This is amazing. Okay, so the question is this. I got a question. Do you think hackers will have a new method to hack the device or data? Yeah, of course they'll have a new method. That's exactly my point. So the question is, will there be new methods to hack devices? Yes, I'm 100% sure that there will be another method. That's why CISOs have a job. And by the way, thank God, because that's why I have a job and I have a team. No, but seriously, that's just the nature of the beast. That's just how it is. Hackers find attacks, and security people defend against them. And by the way, we also use hackers to improve our security. So and we'll talk about that in a second. Oh, sorry. So let me just close this up. So definitely, you can expect that hackers will come up with new methods, and that's why you want to be in the cloud, because you got, I don't know how many engineers work in AWS, maybe 70,000, 50,000. You got 50,000 AWS engineers working full time to improve their offering, which means more security. And you can connect to that and configure that, as opposed to figuring it out yourself. So a lot of on-prem companies back in the day, they'd have to figure out themselves. There'd be a new attack. They wouldn't even patch the old attack. Today, because you don't have to figure out maintenance, all you have to do is figure out configuration, and that's much faster. The velocity is much higher. So there's going to be new attacks, and that's why cloud is the best way forward. By the way, that's why governments, if you're aware of what's going on in governments, FedRAMP, government computing, government cloud computing, they're all going to the cloud. All the governments, all the Western governments, a lot of them are going to the cloud, because that's where the higher velocity is at, and that's where it's easier to be secure. Third point, and I mentioned that before, and so I won't spend too much time on it, is backup and DR. So once you're in the cloud, one of the just one-click things you can have is just really, really strong backups and really, really strong disaster recovery, meaning that as best as possible that you are secure from a problem from your cloud provider. Because back in the day, but the scariest thing wasn't some crazy foreign government attacking us and wiping our data. It was just a fire in the data center. Like, I remember starting my career and being scared to death that maybe there'll be a power out in the city, and that's it, everything will be wiped just because we had old faulty equipment. That's how IT was in the past, and you have like backup tapes and they were shipped off site, and you'd have to go and get them, and it would take you 2-3 days. Everything was slower. Also, customers understood that. Today, with one click, you can be across the world. Again, there's privacy laws, but everything, but you could at least be across the country, across your continent, depends where you're from, and be super backed up and secure, and built it in a way that that with one click you're back on, and even without a click, because your application understands. And by the way, you can just go again. I'm really into chat GPT now, this new AI chat. You can write me a Terraform script for a highly resilient cloud deployment with whatever you're interested in, and boom, look at a Pulumi or Terraform script that you can just deploy. You might want to fix it a little bit, but it's almost like good to go. There's even open source tools. I just was checking this out today. There's an open source tool that lets you write in CLI, like kind of what you want to achieve as far as cloud infrastructure, and then it connects via API to ChatGPT and brings it up. Just an open source tool it's by Firefly, so you can check that out. So today it's even easier than ever to create via code, just infrastructure as code, just create highly resilient, backed up environment. So if you're not doing that, they're not doing it right. So I want you to, stay until the end of the call, just, as out of politeness for me, but finish this webinar, run to ChatGPT, get a DR deployment in place, and get to work. And you'll thank me later. Because again, even cloud can sometimes, shut down, servers have a fault. But if you're just backed up, and it's so cheap, because again, the way the cloud is built, they encourage you to do that with very minimum price addition. So get it, especially if you're getting in money, especially if you're handling money. You want, again, I always give this example because I love security tools. I always play around with it. But I'm just thinking, imagine somebody's in Walmart trying to buy toilet paper in the beginning of the pandemic, and Rapyd's not working because the CISO likes to play around with security tools, right? That can't happen in payments. Like when you go to pay, it's got to work. It's always got to work, right? Because that's experience. Customers, you go and pay, it's almost and if it doesn't work, it becomes a story, right? That one time I was in Walmart and didn't work. It becomes like the story. It's like something that happened to you in life, right? The time your credit card didn't work, it becomes a thing. So as people are building fintech products, we owe it to our customers that our products will work as much as possible, and DR and backups are a strong component of that. So do it. Another important thing that will speed you up is early adopters of new tech. So in security, there's tons of startups, and you can read about them. You go on TechCrunch, that raised significant amount of revenue, especially last year, which was a big year for startups. And they're looking for design partners, looking for early adopters, and they'll give it to you for free. So you'll have like maybe a VC-backed company with maybe 20, 30, 40, 100 developers, and they'll just give you their product for free for you to try it. So you get like security R&D. All you have to do is install it. Now, again, if you're in the cloud and you built your environment in a way that maybe you have a sandbox and you have like a staging environment that doesn't have actual data, and you're resilient to mistakes, you can totally be an early adopter. And then you get to have better security. Suddenly you read about like, kind of Fortune 500 company having a hack. And like, I can have that hack because I got the latest and greatest startup from Silicon Valley or Israel or whatever that's giving me this protection. And all you have to do is agree to meet them and say like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And again, of course, you have to make sure they're connecting securely and zero trust and everything we talked about. You can't just let anybody you meet on LinkedIn have access to your environment. That's not going to end well. But with these founders, again, especially the VC-backed companies, they're a lot of times they're second-time founders. They know how to build companies, and they're just looking. They just need the design partners. So being an early adopter is a huge component. They'll give you an edge over everybody because suddenly you're getting the latest technology for basically free or very cheap. And all you have to do is give them feedback and help them improve it, and they tailor it to you because they can't just go sell to Capital One in Bank of America, right? That's what's good for smaller companies. They have to try it out, they have to see the use cases, and so being their guinea pig, it sounds like it's bad, but it's actually really, really good, and nobody talks about this enough. So being a design partner is huge. If you're a CTO in your company, if you work with companies, you should get to it and do it, and I'm sure you'll be very happy. And the last point, and this is where I want to answer the question regarding hackers, is penetration tests and bug bounties. So the concept that hackers are bad, let me put on my hoodie for a second here. I got a hoodie and you can't see my face, and I'm this evil guy starting to hack. There are criminals in every field. They're criminals, right? In every single field. There could be criminals. Truck driver who cuts you off in a bad way in the road, and there's also in computers. There's computer criminals, but it doesn't make hackers bad. Hackers are people who are trying to get systems to work in a way that wasn't intended, and they're basically giving you really, really high quality QA that can be exploited in a bad way. So you got to use them. So back in the day, you gotta had to raise a big round and spend a lot of money and bring in a pen tester, and it would cost you maybe 50, $100,000 to get a pen test, and you have to like have that money every year. And that's still important. You should definitely do that. But but today there's bug bounties and there's all kinds of companies. I don't want to name drop, but you just Google like top bug bounty companies. These companies are basically marketplaces that connect hackers from all over the world to your company. And then what happens there? What happens is that you democratize your security stack and you get feedback from all over the world. By the way, they're going to be very strong users of your product. There was a time that we had a significant amount of users in our products that were hackers trying to hack us, which was great because what ended up happening is that the developers in Rapyd, they got used to being hacked. The internal knowledge in Rapyd became a knowledge that suddenly developers like, hey, don't do that because that's going to create an indirect object reference, or don't do that because that will create a server-side request forgery. So don't do that. And there was like embedded internal knowledge in Rapid's development. There still is, from just all the time being tested. You're always tested, but the people who are testing you, they report it to you and they get a bounty. Now the bounty doesn't have to be $1 million. It could be $300. It could be $100. But then you have hackers, and as many as you want on your side, testing your product for security. And again, and you only pay them if they succeed. And if they succeed, you want to pay them because you want to thank them for spending their time. And for them, again, because it's over the world. And by the way, you on the call, you can do that today. You can sign up tomorrow and sign up to a bug bounty program and just look at the best companies. You got the Department of Defense there. You got all the top tech companies. Rapid's there. You just go and you start hacking. And if you succeed, you can get a lot of money. There's even a hacker here. I'm in Israel right now. And there's a hacker I talked to. He makes $1 million a year from hacking. That's what he does. He's the one guy, I'm like, that's amazing. That's what he does. He hacks big companies. He knows how to do it, and they gladly pay him because he helps them. He helps them improve security, and he helps them do it fast. So this really helps change the culture, and it doesn't slow you down. Maybe in the beginning you'll get a lot of reports, but at some point you get passed through that initial hump. You get all the low hanging fruits are found out, and then it's very, very controlled, and it's not expensive. Like the whole thing a year could cost you like one pen test. The one downside here is that you can't hand it into companies. Like if you go and get an engagement with like a Fortune 500 company, and you tell them, don't worry, I have a bug bounty, they'll say, no, I want a pen test report. So as for compliance, you'll probably still need to do a pen test. But if you get engaged with a Fortune 500 company, that's going to be the least of your problems, paying another, 10, 20, 30,000 for a pen test. And again, and if you do PCI compliance, pen tests are a part of that as well. But just for your culture and for moving fast and for improving security as the very basis of your company, bug bounties are pivotal. And it's such a cool thing, like a crowdsourced community. And it's a community really, because ultimately you end up having like, 2000 between 20 to 2000, depends how much money you pay, regular hackers. Every time there's a new feature, they're testing it because they want to get paid. And you just have like these outsourced, like this crowdsourced QA team that are focused on security. And it's very interesting also. You got like in our program, we got guys from Turkey, India, Bangladesh, and they all have their own unique way of thoughts. Usually if you're, an American company or, or Israel or whatever, you work with people, a lot of times they think like you and they look for the stuff that you care about. And suddenly I got somebody thinking about like, why would he even do that? But it works, and he found a bug and reported it, and we fixed it, and it was great. So there's a lot of cool stories, a lot of really interesting ways. I know for a fact that I improved. That's why I started this talk with. I don't know anything about security, because then some hacker from Bangladesh comes and like flips me on my head. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think like that could be done. So that's the fun part about security, and that's why you gotta have your running shoes on. So I'll end with that, uh, and uh, and I'll thank you, and I'll open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nir. That was great. A lot of great nuggets in there. Yeah, for anyone, feel free to, if you just want to text or just chat, type as Akash did, feel free to do that in Q&A. But also invite people to talk. Feel free to write out talk if you want to, speak out a question or raise your hand, and I will enable you to allow the talk. And so as maybe you're formulating your question, coming up with your question, Nir, I just have some questions myself. Just in general, you shared so much, but for someone maybe who's been in IT, non-fintech companies, education, or even communication, there's a lot there. What are some top things they should be thinking about, as far as security for them, if they want to get into fintech? Is it PCI? What are some of the top things that they should be learning? And
Yeah, to start out easy, just like I mentioned, you start with CIS, 18 things. Anybody can learn 18 things, and again, you don't even have to learn everything by heart. Start with the first 5, right? So that will just give you the basic concept. Like what are the 5 most important things in security, right? That question has been answered. It's asset management, know what you have, and patch management, update that. So if you know all your devices, all your systems, everything, and you keep them up to date, you're going to be better off than 80% of the market. So that's the first key here as far as security. And then of course PCI is a little more advanced, but if you start with those 2 principles alone, you'll be in a very good situation with PCI, because again, that is the basis. You know what I mean? If you know how to drive a car, you might not be able to drive any car easily, but you'll figure it out eventually, right? Because you know the basics, gas and brake, right? So you got that figured out. Now you're ready to drive. Again, security is a little more complex than gas and brake, but it works just like anything, right? Once you figure it out, you can do that.
nice. And I have another question. As companies kind of enter into this next year, you can just answer this generally. Do you have any insights on, what IT teams, team members, can be doing or should be doing if they need to pivot, due to becoming a little bit more lean entering into this next year?
Yes. Yeah, there's a few things you can do. Again, being early adapters is a great way to be lean. Going to tech companies, even Rapyd, right? Don't want to toot our own horn, but we're doing a lot of things that if you're like lean young company, you can still get a lot of great service, and it goes the same way for security, right? You can there's a lot of open source tools, and it's all out there. All you have to do is just be aware of it and search for it. There's a lot of young companies looking for design partners, and you can get a lot of value. And you could say, okay, 2023 is the year where I'm going to focus on open source, or I'm going to focus on the top 5 controls. Just make sure they're good. I'm not going to go to control 6, 7, 8. Let's get past this year, focus on what we can do. And again, if you're in the cloud, you're lean anyway, because you don't need. So again, you see a lot of giant companies doing digital transformation as a way to lean up their IT teams. There's a reason for that, right? So take that one service you didn't put in the cloud yet, throw that in the cloud, and then you can lean up even more.
Awesome, thank you. And I also want to ask, conversely, on the other side, how would you pivot or plan? Again, just any general thoughts or insights. If you now got invested in, you've been running on lean sources, and maybe you want to do more, and you want to, at one point, do you realize like, oh, I want to step up and, bulk up my resources in IT? What does that look like?
Yeah. So again, if we go back to the jungle kind of metaphor, the earlier the better. It's a head start, right? The head start, the earlier the better. And just like any position, you got to bring specialists involved. Usually, you see companies they start the CTO. A lot of times is the CISO, the de facto CISO. And around round B, C, they start bringing in a full-time CISO when they're around 150 people. The earlier you do that, the better you are, because you can have more time to build it. Again, if you're in the cloud, you don't need the IT guy so fast. You need the DevOps to get your velocity, and then you need your security in place. And then a lot of companies, especially cloud companies, the security guys or the DevOps guys can do the IT already because it's all about it's a few laptops, it's a few cloud applications, and usually you're good for a few years. So if you closed a round that could allow you to again, because in the first rounds you have to be very, very lean. You just got to have the go-to market guys and in security a lot of times, unless you're a security company, the go-to-market guys are not, they're more operation guys. So you need your sales and you need your developers. Those are the guys you start up with when you raise your first rounds. When you get to the, B rounds, C rounds, then you can already start getting operations. And I would advise you to consider security as one of your operations. Like make sure, like at least bring a security-minded guy that could wear multiple hats, which is what happens a lot of times in startups. So that will give you your basis. But if you don't want to do that, then you can become a security minded guy. Again, today with Twitter, Reddit, and ChatGPT, and the two and ISO and CIS, you can know a lot of security. You could just ask the questions, and you're good. You could always bring in a consultant part time. Uh, Again, I'm not a big fan of consulting, even though I came up from consulting, because a lot of times you end up leaving the knowledge is there because you're like, oh, the consultant will take care of it. And then the consultant leaves and you don't know anything. A lot of times it's better to have the CTO, you're the actual CISO now, the CSO now, learn here, here's CIS, here's PCI, figure it out, spend time, do it good, and let like the team leader take a bigger role in security.
Awesome. And I just have one last question. Again, anyone feel free to jump in. But if you're looking to get hired in IT security, just to start and connect with the team, what can you do? What are your recommendations?
So it depends on your background. If your background is development and this is developer community, so I assume you got a great background. You know coding. That means you know how to automate stuff. You can pivot. Today, a lot of DevOps, again, IT security is a kind of obsolete term because they're saying cloud security, DevSecOps, application security, pipeline security. It depends what you do. You don't really see IT security is more of a term that was used like 5 years ago. Because again, there's not that much IT like classic IT. It's shifted to DevOps. But if you want to pivot to IT to security, and I advise you to do that because if you kind of look at salaries, it's on the top, data science and security. Use your background. So if you know development, great. Join a bug bounty, understand web hacking, understand how to break code, and you know how to read code, and then you can understand what scanners scan the code, connect those worlds, and then you have a lot of value. You got a lot of, and today we live in a world that you don't need the formal education, you don't even need the experience. So today, we live in a world that if you know how to do something, especially in security, because the market is so competitive as far as hiring, if you know how to do something, you're going to get a job. It doesn't matter if you don't have any experience. And you can get experience by, again, joining a bug bounty. You can make $1 million a year. Why would you even want to get a job, right? But I'm saying, even if you're not that good, because that guy is one of the best, bug bounders in the world. But even if you're not the best, even if you're just mediocre, that's fine. That means you have some value. You can come and help them manage the bug bounty, triage it, speak with the developers, help them improve. And that's if you have a development background. If you have an IT background, great. You understand infrastructure, you can help out in that. So it really is, and let's first decide what you're interested in. And again, it's all at the at your fingertips. Just you spend some time, Google it, read about it, listen to the top podcast, find a mind map, right? Security mind map. You'll see all the things. Start going down the rabbit hole, watch some YouTube videos, put a question in Reddit. There's a million forums in Reddit and Twitter and stuff like that. Figure out what you like. and then just go with it. And again, you can get your experience. You could just spin up an AWS account, start securing it. You can just join a bug bounty program, start attacking legit companies and getting experience. And if you do that for a few months, you understand what you like, then you're on your way already. It's just a matter of time till you get a job, and that's it, you're in. So it could be easier, really. It's just about wanting it and hustling and grit, all day grit.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I'll leave a little bit of space if anyone else has a last question for Nir. But if not, I know I need sometimes a night's rest before I have all these questions that came up after processing. Nir, if someone wanted to reach out, where could they get a hold of you? I think you had mentioned LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn and engage with me. And yeah, when we got a question. So compared to the world of fintech, and what part do you think to be more secure for, e.g., transaction credentials, something like that? So I'm not sure I understand the question, but I think the question is which part, if we look at the world of fintech, what is the thing we have to be? So I think transaction is again, because it's data in motion, and today it's just today it's something so known. That's pretty much like as a baseline figured out. I think credentials are still a big problem. Ultimately, the number one method of attacking any organization is still phishing. It's still the number one. Today attackers have figured out, if you read the last Uber attack, for instance, they still used phishing. They were able to circumvent their MFA. They were able to kind of trick the user to giving their MFA token. They're like their SMS code or whatever they got, their Google Authenticator. They were able to bypass that as well. So phishing is still the number one attack. The criminals are improving in phishing. So I still think credentials is the number one issue, and that's why I talked about ZeroTrust as my number one technical control. So if you gotta protect one thing in fintech, protect your credentials, protect your secret keys, your access keys, your password, all that stuff is a thing that's going to get you hacked, probably, if you believe statistics. Okay, so hopefully that answered the question. Anything else?
Awesome. Looks like Akash is raising your hand. I'll allow you to talk. Looks like we have just time for maybe one or two more questions. So welcome, Akash.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, and nice picture.
Thank you.
Very welcoming.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yes, yeah, I'm a great fan of Kratos, of course, God of War.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so what I'm asking is that, like, I'm a new guy in when it comes to security, like ethical hacking, penetration testing. So if I want to go learn some security or some ethical hacking, how would you suggest to start from the scratch to learn about security?
So the best way to do it is if you want to do ethical hacking, is join a bug bounty program. So the leading companies in bug bounties are BugCrowd and HackerOne. HackerOne offers training course where they do like a capture the flag. Yeah, they do games. It's free. You just join and they give you a challenge, like find a vulnerability, and then you find it and they help you improve. And just like if you finish doing that, you can probably make money in bug bounties. You could probably start doing that. It's not as easy as it sounds, but they help you out. They train you. Beyond that, if you just Google bug bounty, start being a bug bounter. There'll be a million resources. There's a million pages on GitHub with resources and courses and YouTube courses, and it's all free. And that's it. So just Google like how to become a bug bounter, how to become a good bug bounter, resources. And there's Reddit forums that you can join and talk to people and ask them how to start. And again, if you go on these forums, just search for people who ask that questions. You'll find so many resources, and the best way to do it is just to try it. So you just need to try. You need to join one of the big ones. It's free. Take their course and then try. You go on the websites, you sign up, and you try to hack them according to, of course, the scope of the program, right? Because you want to do it
Yeah.
ethically, and then you report it and you make money. It's unbelievably simple, and yet it works so well, and so many companies, even the Department of Defense in the U.S., welcome it. So that would be my advice to you. The best way is just to start. Again, if you start in 3 months, you're going to be really good. Just because you spend 3 months on it, it's 3 months more than I spent on it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do participate on hackathons often. So
Yeah.
every time I think of deploying some project to the real world, I was also scared of the security thing because I don't know anything about it. So
Yeah.
So,
So your way to know is a CIS top 18. There's also the Cloud Security Alliance, the CSA, and they have like for cloud applications best practices. But the CIS is a really good way to start. And so if you know the CIS, you know the controls, and then if you kind of practice at being a bug bouncer and kind of participate in bug bounty, you understand attacking and you understand a lot of methods. And once you're there, you can read bugs that people submit, and that's a lot very educational. Because if back in the old days, I used to do a pen test once a year, twice a year, then I'd read the findings. Maybe they'd be 10 findings. Now I read findings all the time because we keep getting reports. Some of them are wrong, some of them are misses, but you read them anyway and you keep improving, and you just get and again, it's global, so you get like so many perspectives you would never even dream of. So I really advise you to join that community and start hacking. And I'm telling you, in a matter of months, especially since you understand coding, obviously you're gonna really see improvements. And again, you can make money for findings, which is really cool, right? Because you always want to be paid for your time.
yeah, thank you. Thanks.
My pleasure. Good luck. Good luck. Hopefully you'll hack Rapyd.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for a hackathon next year from Rapyd.
No, but this is through the bug bounty. But yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, of course I will.
Yeah. Once you join, you look for a Rapids program, and definitely, looking forward for quality bugs.
Yeah, sure. I'll be waiting for that.
Okay. Good luck. Okay. One last question, I think. I think we have time. From a cybersecurity perspective, how can users best be trained to recognize attacks from hacksters and fraudsters? Like when you mentioned that people were tricked in giving their MFA and phishing attacks, how can we prevent that? So that's a great question. That's a question, my team, we talk about a lot. So the best way is just to know about other attacks. If I were to tell you like, hey, like this is how Uber got attacked step by step, you would know about it. You'd be more aware. I personally, a lot of companies believe in phishing drills where you trick your users to clicking. I only think that makes users feel bad about themselves. You know what I mean? And my goal as a CISO is to make that irrelevant. Like make sure that even if you get tricked and somebody steals your password, that doesn't matter. Rapyd will still be fine. And then somebody steals your MFA thing, that's still fine. And employees in Rapyd can attest when they get blocked and it's annoying and they don't understand why they get blocked. That's because we got a lot of controls in place, because I don't want it to matter. I don't want like one password to be the difference between getting hacked and not. I don't want one MFA token to be the difference between getting hacked or not. I want a few controls, and that's the zero trust principle. So the defenders, the security team, can add more and more controls, making it more and more, because you can be tricked once and even twice, but you're not going to be tricked 6 times. Is a level. Most people won't be tricked. You get tricked twice. You can be tricked. A lot of things, what they do is, and it's funny, they go on LinkedIn and they offer you your dream job, and then they invite you to some Zoom call, and that's where they start stealing your stuff. They're like, oh, just log in. And then you're about to start the call, and they're like, oh, the salary there is like, like $1 trillion a year. And you're like, oh, I got to get on this interview. And then you just go and it's really easy. They can always get you. That's what I learned in my past working in companies that actually attack people. Everybody can get tricked. Anybody. I can get tricked. The world champion security, if that's a thing, can get tricked. So users should educate themselves, and it's easy. Just follow a Twitter feed that gives you the latest hacks. Read about it. Spend 5 minutes a day. Listen to a podcast when you drive to work about security, the latest security hacks. It's just a Google away, and you can be aware of that stuff, and then you can personally not be tricked. It's my job to instruct users. Here's how people get hacked, and to make that not important.